Hello, and a very warm welcome to our webinar, AI Roadmap for JobRouter, on this Friday morning. We hope you all have some time and you're looking forward to hear what we are saying. We have prepared our webinar together, Rami and myself. What is the plan for today's webinar, what we would like to talk about? First of all, what is an agent? What is an AI agent? I think this is a very important topic for you guys out there. And I guess that most of you will probably know what is an AI agent. You have heard about it. You have seen a lot of things in the news and media. We're going to talk about it a little bit to have a short introduction in the session today. And afterwards, we're going to look into the AI functionalities in JobRouter. And this is what this webinar is about today, to give you an overview what is coming up this year from JobRouter to you, enabling and enrich our platform with new capabilities. For sure, we will do also a live demo of the current development stage of what we have and what will then be delivered in the next months. And on top of that, we will also talk a little bit about a new product that will be available in this year from JobRouter to you, and it's called Intelligence Studio. Be excited. It's all interesting stuff. And of course, at the end of this session, we're going to do a questions and answers round. Important for you to know is that, first of all of you participants are muted in this webinar, but feel free to ask any questions in the FAQ section in Zoom. So just enter the questions, and at the end, when we're going to go to the questions and answers round, we will walk through these questions and try to answer them all directly here in this webinar. So it's not only me today, it's also Rami Opitz, who's joining me for the live part and the live demonstration. Rami is in charge for our product development here at JobRouter, and she will give you a short presentation of the current stage of what we can do with AI in JobRouter. Okay, so I would say let's go. Let's start into the webinar and talk about AI agents. So AI agents, agentic AI, the first question, of course, is what is an AI agent? And of course, most of you probably have already worked, and I'm sure you all have worked with tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and Copilot. And if you work with these kind of LLMs, it's always a large language model, which holds all the knowledge actually of the whole world inside of this model. And it can answer questions that you can raise to them. It will answer this. But it's only you talk to it and it will answer it. And an agent is an LLM, so large language model, including goals that define what to do, tools. It's a tool set that helps you performing something, and also a memory of remembering what you said to make a conversation with you, and also rules. This is what an agent does. And I've written it down here, LLM, I just said it, large language model. So that's really the brain. And this is exactly the same thing that you already have. If you talk to ChatGPT, for example, that's the brain and it answers your questions. The goal is the next point. So if you talk about a goal, it means that, for example, you want an agent to do something and say, okay, this agent should, for example, look into an Excel file, read some data from this Excel file, and transmit it into online CRM system, let's say Salesforce. So this is the task, the goal that you give it to this agent. So you have to describe it and give it to it. Otherwise, he won't do anything. So you need a goal for an agent. And here comes now the next part, and this is the big difference between just an LLM where you talk to and an agent. An agent has tools, because otherwise he can only describe what to do. Maybe he can deliver you text back. He even could do some programming stuff and deliver you back some source code if you want to use it for that. But in the end, if you want to actively do something in other tools, he needed tools and the access to these tools, like API accesses, like, let's say, CRM access could be the Salesforce system in the cloud. He needs to access that system and really do things in there, sending out a mail, access databases or document management systems. You need the different tools. Otherwise, this agent will talk a lot, but will not do anything. And the next part, memory, is of course that he remembers what you talked to him and where the current stage is. That means if you interact, for example, like a chatbot with this agent, he remembers the last things that you already talked to him and can use that for the next steps that he does. And the last point, and this is really important, especially for us here at jobrouter, are the policies and the guardrails. So what is permitted and what is not permitted, so compliance and the rights of this agent. And this is very important because if this agent can do anything, it can be dangerous. And we're talking about, so especially with jobrouter, we're talking about business processes, and sometimes it's business critical business processes. So you really want to be sure that these agents does the things that you want them to do and the right things in the right way in the business processes. So this is the important parts for an AI agent, and it's all things that we considered while building this inside of the jobrouter platform. How does an agent think and work? So first of all, he understands the task and the context. So this is what you give to him. It's like, okay, let's say the task is bring the data into Salesforce, and the context is that you also provide an Excel file and a description where it needs to be placed there. And then the agent will directly start to make a plan. So he will cut down the task into subtasks and say, okay, step by step, I will now perform different things like open an Excel file, search through the different lines, take a line, use an API and bring the data into Salesforce. Yeah? So this is what he just says. So he makes the plan for himself. Then the next part is actually the act. So here he needs the tools. If the tool is available to talk to let's say Salesforce, he can now act and do it. And afterwards, again, he needs to also to check the data. So is the result positive or negative? And then delivers back the information to the one who gave the task to this agent. So this is these are the orders how an agent thinks and works. And therefore, he has the different tools, and he needs the different tools to perform these tasks. And the different tools could be, here on the left side, read documents, read data out of databases. And there are special technologies like RAG, is where you can put documents in and understand the context of the documents. He needs to write data, but he also can compute and just calculate things and use all the knowledge he has in his large language model to execute things like to understand the text, to create new text things, and so on. And of course, he needs to observe everything that he's done and create some log files. So what are the risks and best practices? And that's the important part for us here at jobrouter. These are things where we really thought, how should we build it that it's really stable and it will be that it gets really stable in the future to perform even critical business processes in companies. Yeah? And the first thing I think is something that you all know: hallucinations. Yeah, so that's the point that the LLM will say something that maybe is not true. And this is something that you would like to avoid. You can't avoid it always, but you at least should get down the risk of hallucinations. Yeah? And this is done by a clear purpose for an agent. And that means that the task is one task that you give to him and not let do him everything. Yeah? Because an agent that can do everything typically starts hallucinations. And this is something that we want to avoid. Security is a major point. So you want to restrict the access to the data this agent really needs. And this is something that you also have to consider if you talk about agents within business processes. So if it's a process for, let's say, standard process like invoice approval process, yes, of course, the agent needs access to data like the invoices, like orders, and so on. But this agent should not have access maybe to the whole document archive or the HR data, which is maybe also within jobrouter, and then maybe takes data and use it somewhere else and talks about this data with other persons. So this is a very important part that needs to be quite clear and needs to be really safe in the AI world within the business processes. And control, this is a best practice. So that typically you don't start just by setting up an agent and let him do anything. So you let him maybe prepare some data and have a human in a loop behind that checks the data and checks the actions and decisions that this agent does. And then later on, you can say, okay, now it's time when we can let the agent do these things alone. Quality, of course, you need testing possible options. You need a good monitoring of what the agent really does, not just a black box that it does something and in the end you have a result, but you don't know what he really did, and especially you don't know which actions he took and maybe which tools and other systems he has interfaced. And last but not least, something that you all need and want to have in your job order processes is the transparency and the documentation of what have been done. So that means not only the steps that maybe are human steps in job order and the system activities, also if there is an agent somewhere in your business process, you really want to know what did this agent do at this point, which data did he see and which data did he manipulate, for example, and which actions did this agent took. These are all things that we considered and thought about, and this is the base of the AI functionalities that we have built for jobrouter and now integrating in the jobrouter platform. So what are the major AI functionalities that we are building and will release now soon with jobrouter? So there are three main pillars we're talking about. So on the left side, you see process execution. Process execution means that somewhere in your business processes that you have already built with jobrouter, you have user activities, you have system activities, and system activities are fixed functionalities that we deliver with the system. But now you will also be able to bring an AI agent in your process as a single step or as multiple steps in your workflow. And this agent will perform the things that you define in this specific part. So it will empower your workflows. So with things that maybe today you would write even code in PHP or SQL to develop something. These are all things that now agents can take over. So it saves you time by building the process and it saves you time by executing it. And the agents can for sure do some decisions and prepare data for you wherever you would like to integrate it. The second part is the user integration, because the first part is only the backend and it just does everything automatically. The user agent will be a chatbot that will be available for all the users to interact with the jobrouter system and to access processes, data, and documents in our platform. And then the last part, process designer. This is something that probably will be more in next year available in the jobrouter platform. And this will be an agent that that helps you building new processes and applications. So, for example, you say, this is the type of process that I want to have with these kind of steps, and it will prepare everything in jobrouter, like starting with a flowchart, building you the different steps inside of jobrouter, the process table, and even the forms that you need for this workflow. And then you can start working on it, but you save some time for the first draft of this workflow, or it can help you building then PHP functions or JavaScript functions inside of the platform without having to know how to develop this on your own. Yeah, these are the three pillars. In this year, we are focusing on the system activity on the left side, which is now planned for the next release to come with the beta status, and the user agent, which is planned for the second release in this year to be then available for the end users. So how does this user agent start? So we're going to look first on the user agent. So the user agent will be a chatbot. We will see it also later live, how it works. And this chatbot can handle different requests from the users. Like you could say, start an investment request workflow. So it will search for the processes that you have in the system, and then it will ask for the different information that you have to provide for this workflow. So typically it would be a form, but now you can do it just by talking to the chatbot. And later on, of course, then maybe even by really bringing speech into it and don't have to write down these questions. You can then ask for documents out of the archives, like find the last invoice from a specific vendor, or you ask questions about processes that you have in the system, like have you already carried out a supplier onboarding for a specific company. And now this agent can look maybe in a job select or in an archive or in the incident history if this has been done, or other questions are also available to be raised for this user agent. On the right side, and this is the important part for this agent, is the set of tools that we have built for this agent. So first of all, it's a tool that allows you to start processes and look at the process data. Then we have the data tools like Job Select. Job Select is in jobrouter is a module for creating the reports, and Job Select also can access other databases. So if you want to access any other database in jobrouter and provide it for these agents, you can do it with that. Job data as well will be available. And of course, you would like to have the documents. That's why we also have created tools for accessing the archives and accessing the full text information of the documents inside of the archive, which is important because then you can start raising questions about documents and we will answer regarding to the content of these documents. Also, the AI agent will have the knowledge about the manuals of jobrouter, so you can ask questions about how do I develop a process in jobrouter, and he will tell you how to do this. A very important part here is this filter that you see between the user AI agent and the tools. And the filter is something that we've created, which ensures that this agent will only have access to the data that is available for this user. So if you are talking to this bot, it will for sure only tell you things out of databases and processes and documents and so on that are in your access. And this is important because if you would now take the documents, put it somewhere in an agent, give it to him, you don't have this rights system and rights profiles in there. And then it can happen that people and users will receive data that they shouldn't receive. And we have the security layer in here helping you to be in a very safe environment for your agents. So the second point and the first one that we're going to release are the AI agents within the jobrouter processes. So that means at a specific point, you can create an AI agent as an activity in your workflow. And again, this AI agent has the same tools available. So that means this agent can start other processes or maybe get document data and help you extracting data from that within these processes. And you can define a specific task, which in fact is a prompt. As we say, the prompt for this agent is to do something with the specific tools. On the left side, I've written down some examples what this could be. So, for example, it could be a three-way match of an incoming invoice. And I talk about this because I know that a lot of our customers are using jobrouter also for accounts payable workflows, invoice approvals. And a three-way match would be that we're receiving an invoice with invoice line items. And now we would like to compare these line items of the invoice with the delivery notes that we also received and have booked in our system, and also the orders that we initially took and sent out to this vendor. And now we want to compare, is that what we have been delivered, the same thing that we have on the invoice? And is it also the same thing that we ordered, and are the prices the one that we have agreed and defined in our order to this vendor? This is something that sometimes our customers are building on their own in a jobrouter platform. Often it's also by writing a lot of even SQL statements to access databases, maybe some code to compare the different lines and so on. And now this is something that you can just bring in as a prompt to this AI agent. So that means you tell the agent, here's the data, the invoice line items. You have a job select holding all the orders, and maybe you have a job data holding the delivery notes. And now your job as an agent is to compare everything and mark the different lines in your jobrouter processes as compared and then see the differences. And that means you don't have to develop something. You don't have to program. The only thing you have to do is describe what you want to have. So the same thing that you today would just describe to us or to your solution partner he should implement, you just describe it, and then the agent will do exactly this task. And of course, we have also the security layer in here. But the same thing could be create an account assignment, proposal for this invoice, to get the right accounts for the invoice, for the booking later. Or you would like to check contract documentations if there is any legal contradictions or pitfalls in it for a document that is maybe already in the archive or as an attachment on the process. And other questions also can be raised here, and other tasks can be defined for this agent. And that means less time for developing your processes and much more intelligence by the execution of the process instances for you while working with the jobrouter platform. So these are the most important parts that we are building at the moment. So the AI system activity and the user AI agent. Both will come in the cloud-first approach for our cloud customers, and later on we also want to provide something for on-premise, that on-premise installation can be combined with our cloud because the AI is running in our cloud. The designer agent I talked already before, that's why we don't do a deep dive, is already the things that I said, like building me a process, helping me create scripts and so on. We don't talk about this much today because this is something we want to look next year at it. But this is an important fact, I think, for you. So maybe one or the other of you has heard from about MCP servers. This is Model Context Protocol, and this is, let's say, like a standard now for how a software solution can be integrated into AI agents. Not only in our AI agent, but maybe in Copilot or others, Claude or whatever you're using. So you need an MCP server, and then you can get this application inside of this AI tool to interact with it. And this is something that we also will provide. That means that the tools that we talked about before are the tools that we also will extract in an MCP server that can be connected to other existing AI agents. So just that you know it, because we know these questions will be raised otherwise afterwards here in the chat. I want to talk about it. And the last point before the live demo is the data security, because it's also a thing where probably you will have some questions. So that means we have the transparency. So which tools are used for a specific agent? Which data has this agent accessed? Which results has it done? There's a complete audit log containing all this information. That means for every single step where you have an AI agent in there, you will find in the incident history also the information of what this agent at this specific step has done and executed. Totally transparent. Our LLM is configured so that the transmitted data is not used to optimize the model itself. So it's only processed in the model, but it's not saved there, and it not be used and exploited somewhere to other customers using this model. The model itself is hosted then on servers in Germany, which will ensure that we comply to the GDPR governance that we need to. And as I said before, it will be also available that the MCP server can be connected into other AI agents if you want to do that, to use then your own AI agents to interact with the jobrouter platform. Okay, so that was a lot of information here for you and a lot of slides to consume. Now it's the time that maybe we have a look at it. So what's the current stage of our development? And I would say this is the point where I would hand over to Romy. And Romy, please, if you could show us how this will work in the future in jobrouter, this would be great.
Okay, thank you, Axel. If you stop your screen sharing, I can take over. Okay, thank you. So share my screen, this one. Okay, you can see it, I think. It's just a thumbs up.
Yes,
perfect.
Yep, it's there.
Thank you. So to give you a bit of a break from all the slides, let's see some live action. And Axel just talked a lot about AI agents and LLMs, and they are already pretty powerful on their own. But if you give them access to jobrouter data, that's where it can really generate value for your workflows, for your companies. And I want to show you two features that we are planning to implement, to release. We will start with the system activity. So as a use case, I have picked the well, a very typical scenario actually. Let me replace. Okay. Imagine you have an invoice approval workflow. And at some point at the beginning, all the invoice data is extracted, the line items are extracted, invoice is sent to approval, and at one point, pretty much at the end, it comes back to the accounting department, and their task now is to do an GL account assignment for each line item to find the matching GL account. And that's normally a manual task. It's not really a good one to be automated because it always depends on the article of that line item, on the description of that article. And as you know, that's text, that's free text. It's really hard to put some logic, some automatic logic on that to do an automatic account assignment. But since it's text, and LLM is really really equipped to find out what exactly is behind that line item and what should the GL account be. So that's a really nice use case for AI. So this one here is now like an example set of line items. The article names are in German. I will keep it that way because it's a nice use case as well. But it's basically electrical components and some services. And I have now here, for example, the account list. So that's the GL account I want to assign, or I want the AI to assign. And I will also ask it to give me a reason why it picked that specific GL account. I will send it off now because it takes a minute. It's something that's done in the backend. What's important here to know is for the agent to do its work, it needs to know what the GL accounts of your company are, of course. GL accounts are different for each company, so it can't just pick one from the internet. It has to be a GL account that actually exists in your company. And that's where JobRouter comes into play because, of course, we do have access to the company master data in the form of reports, for example, also in the form of job data. And we can give that AI agent access to this specific reports and some more, and that's where it gets the data from. So that's one place where it can look to perform its task, and that's what the system activity does. We can. Oh, it was quite quick. It has come back already. So this would be the account assignment proposal from the AI agent. As you can see, it selected GL accounts from the list. I also gave it a task to find out which text code are matching, but we can ignore that for now. So it selected the accounts, and it also give me the reason why it selected these accounts. So this is a switch basically in English, an electrical component which it has assigned to cost of raw materials. Same with this one. That's electrical outlet. These are some pipes, so it's all cost of raw materials. The last two are labor costs. So that's the technician, that's a student. So it assigned it to direct labor. So it could actually give me also the reason why it picked these accounts. And that's very important, especially at the beginning, when you start working, when you start including the AI agents into your workflow. Axel talked about human in the loop at the beginning. He talked about quality. It's really important at the beginning to check, like, why did you pick what you picked, and is the reasoning okay? If not, you should work on your prompts and specify them a bit more, so that the quality of the results that come back is a bit better all in all. So that was done by a system activity, as I mentioned. So let me show you how that looks like. It's still work in progress. That's why it's still missing the yellow color. But we will provide a system activity, which basically what you need, what you specify in here is the prompt. So that was the prompt for the task we just did. Create an GL account assignment proposal based on historical data and available GL accounts in the master data. Filter GL accounts and text codes. Justify your selection. That's basically it. That was the prompt the agent had to work with. Now, what we also specified is context, very important. The agent needs to know what kind of data am I working with and what kind of data am I allowed to return, basically. So that's, of course, workflow data that we have here, that we specify here. So you can hand over all the data from your current workflow instance to the agent, but it actually makes sense to kind of put a constraint on it and only handle the data that it really needs for the work itself. So for the GL account assignments, it doesn't really matter what my vendor is, I guess. The invoice number doesn't matter. Invoice date doesn't really matter. So I only supply it with the line item data, with the title, the article name, and stuff like this. And that's really important here, because the more data you give the agent to work with, number one, the slower it is, because it has to, from the millions of data sets that you give him, the agent has to find out which one is the one relevant to me. And if you give it a lot of texts and data, it doesn't really know what's the article name that's now relevant for me. So it might pick the wrong text to work with. So it's really important here to only give it the data that's relevant for this task, not anything else, because then the chances are it starts hallucinating. So this is also the place where you specify where the agent can return the data to, like the recent enforce and GL account. That was the data it was given back to. So that's also something you can specify. You can specify here, and equally as important is the data the agent has access to outside of the current workflow. That's the reports I just mentioned. So in order to look at the GL account master data, it needs access to the GL accounts master data. And that's why you can, in this activity, also specify the kind of reports it should use for that specific task. Again, it does not make sense to give it access to all kinds of reports. Like if you have HR reports about something about employee onboarding, you wouldn't give it to an agent to do a GL account proposal. It doesn't make sense. It's also kind of, about security. Don't give it access to something it shouldn't have access to for its task. So that's reports are available here, archive views. So if you want to do something document related, you can also give it access to document archives. What's still missing here is shop data, but that will also be added in the future. And from that small overview, you can already see that it's really powerful what you can do here. There's a lot of flexibility. All you need basically is the prompt itself and access to the data that you usually have in jobrouter, master data, but also historical data. That's what you specify here, and then the agent can actually do its task. So that's quite powerful altogether. And that's the system activity that we will release in the first step. That's the first thing that will be available for customers to use. The second thing that Axel also mentioned is the user agent, which is still work in progress. So that's not something we will release next month or so. It's more targeted for summer because we are still, working on reliability, on performance also. But just to give you an idea of what you can do with that agent. So that agent, most importantly, has access, the user agent has access to all the data you yourself have access to. So everything that I see in jobrouter, the reports, the documents, the workflows that I see, that's what the agent can also access. It cannot access anything that I don't see. It cannot access HR reports if I don't have access to them. That's most important to know. So we do have some guardrails here in there, some checks based on my current user account. So what I can do here, for example, I can ask, are there any open invoices? So I do have, you can see it on the left side, I do have a report called invoices. So it's very likely the agent will go in there and check and find invoices that are open. As I mentioned, it's not very reliable. Check again, please. Usually I have to ask it twice. It's like a really lazy colleague, you can say. Check again. So takes a while sometimes. So that's the demo use case. So it did find an invoice. Okay, so there's one open invoice currently. So I checked the reports, found one. It's called invoices. Found there a column called status, and that status was open or offen, the German one, which it translated into open. So that's something the agent can do. It can access archives, show me all contracts. So it will now hopefully look at an archive. Sometimes it also looks at reports and then tells me there are no reports for contracts. It didn't. That's a good one. So it found my document archive with contracts in them and just listed all of them. But it didn't get the right archive. Check the document archive. So yeah, that's the one we are still working on, the hallucinating and finding the right places to look at. So that's the right one. Check the document archive. So it found all the contracts in my archive. I can say, give me the details for contract number 444. That's the one it gave me here. And it will hopefully go into the archive and give me the details. So what it also has access to, which we should see if it actually does its work, it doesn't only have access to the archive view itself, and the index data, it also has access to the actual full text of the document. So it can look inside the documents to extract the data. So that's the data it currently extracted for me. So you can imagine all the kinds of things you can do with that. You can ask it for summaries of certain documents. You can ask it to compare documents. You can just ask it for details. You can ask it for specific information inside documents. So that's quite powerful. And what it can also do, last use case here, I can ask it to start a workflow. So it doesn't only have access to information, it also has access to workflows I can trigger. So I can say, for example, start an investment request. That's a workflow I have access to that I can actually also start on my own with like a start step. And what it does now is it finds out, okay, I do have access to a workflow like this, but there are some required fields I have to provide before it can start this investment request. And the information it needs are the investment amount, the investment subject, iPhone, and the description, need a new phone, please. So that's the details I will provide. And in the backend now, it uses our API to actually start a workflow. So workflow was successfully started. So I don't have a step in my inbox here, but I can check the steps overview to see if there's something new coming in. So this was the newest one, 10:41. It's a different time zone, but the time matches. So that's the one I just started with the subject and the description and the amount, basically. So that's also possible to use this chatbot, this agent, to start workflows. So that's just some of the use cases we are currently thinking about. As I mentioned, the system activity will be published quite soon with the next release. The user agent, as you could see, still needs some work. We need to work on reliability and performance as well, because if the AI agent needs a minute to answer, if it's a system activity, it doesn't matter. Nobody sees how long it takes. But if you're a user and you're sitting in front of the chatbot, you don't want to wait 60 seconds for the answer to come up. So that's also something we are working on. But that's a short insight into what we are currently doing. One last thing, which I can't show because we don't have a user interface for this yet, but all the actions, the agents, the user agent and the system activity agent have just done. These actions are also logged into a table in jobrouter, so that we also have kind of an audit log for all the actions it has done. For everything this agent has accessed, like all the reports it has access, the documents, the specific documents it has access to answer my questions, the workflows the agent has started. So that's all logged somewhere. And what we are currently working on is like a user interface for that information, so that you can also see what the agent has actually done. So that's it for the live demo, which hopefully was a nice break for you from the slides, because we are going back to them now, and Axel will show you some more stuff.
Great. Thank you very much, Romy, for this presentation and the live demonstration, so that you all will have seen what it will look like for the release in the future. I'm going to tell you a little bit about now a second part. Yeah? So we've seen now, first of all, we've seen everything which is integrated into jobrouter. So it will come, by the way, as an extra module to have this AI functionality available. And as we said already, it will be cloud first and then rolled out also to other customers that are even then later, or maybe still with an on-prem system working with jobrouter. So this is integrated in jobrouter. But now we look at something else besides jobrouter, because we will also launch in this year a new product which is called Intelligence Studio. And the Intelligence Studio is a studio, a kind of a workbench where you can build your own agents besides jobrouter. So this is really if you talk about jobrouter and the integrated agents, really about processes, documents, data, everything that you need inside of your business process, as it's tightly integrated into our environment. So it's super easy to use. Yeah? You don't have to build interfaces and anything else. Here we talk about really building fully agents that help you somewhere in your company. And maybe you have already seen other tools like N8N, for example, here out of Germany is one of the open source tools that do things like that. This is almost the same that you will get from us, and you will get it also then integrated into our product portfolio. Yeah? And the Intelligence Studio helps you to create comprehensive AI agents. That means we have seen and talked about MCP servers before, so you can choose any kind of MCP servers. It could be the jobrouter's MCP server, but it could be also any kind of other MCP servers that you already have, maybe in your company with your tools. It could be other applications from jobrouter. So we have the SUGAT1 software as well. So this is also then available as an MCP server. You build then inside of this your agent, you choose the model, you define what the action is, but you also have things in here like vector storages where you can upload documents to train these agents for performing specific tasks. There are interfaces like even communicating to APIs, also accessing databases. So there's a lot of functionality in there to really create rich agents. And today this is just a sneak peek to tell you that this is something that comes also and will be provided from us. It will be a cloud product, and it will be rolled out to our customers then probably somewhere in Q2, Q3 of this year. We're just starting with the internal phase, with the beta phase of testing the first things in here. Then we will train our partners worldwide to use this Intelligence Studio, and then to be able to build workflows and to build AI agents together with our customers. And as I said, it's integrated into jobrouter. That means at any point at jobrouter in your processes, you can say, you can just say, I want to start this agent and initiate it, and then you build this rich agent and bring it into the jobrouter world, or even out of the chat that Romy just have shown you, it will be possible to interact with these agents to bring more functionality into the jobrouter platform. But even besides that, you can just integrate it somewhere else in your environments. You don't have to use jobrouter. You can use it even without jobrouter. Very important thing for you, I think. We don't do a live demo now because we will roll out it soon. We will have special webinars about that to tell you more about this tool and this functionality, about pricing, about how the trainings are working, about typical use cases that we can do with that. Yeah, but it's important for you to know that it will come, and that if you have any questions about that, or if you have ideas about use cases that you would like to solve now together with your vendors, with your JobRouter solution partners, you can already start contacting them, and then also take us on the table. We can start thinking about it, and we can also start soon in going into the first POCs in building AI agents for your company, to make your processes more automated and help you get your company on a next level in steps of automation. Yeah? So that's the important information about the tool. Here's just another screenshot then that you can see how it will look like. But as I said, later on, we will make a deep dive into this product. And last but not least, a sneak peek on how this will be integrated in JobRouter. So on the left side, you see here our user AI agent in JobRouter. It's not a final UI that you see here, but it just tells you how it will be. So that means that you will have the AI agent in JobRouter, and you can then interact with this AI agent with other agents that you have built in the Intelligence Studio. Yeah? And that means that today you can decide, I need a new agent. You can build it together with your solution partner, and on the same day you can then release it and integrate it into your JobRouter environment and start using this agent either out of a workflow or out of the chat. Yeah, so that was just the short sneak peek that I wanted to give to you about this product. And now talking about the next steps, I think this is something that you probably want to know. If we talk about February 2026, now we are planning to provision the JobRouter agent activity in the cloud as a beta, and just in a moment for selected customers. So selected customers will have a first access to it, and we will help them, and we will accompany these customers and learn from it. We said we start in the cloud because also we will continue to work on it, and it's very easy for us to deploy step by step, night by night, new functionalities in there, and it's easier to have it here in the cloud. That's the reason why we are starting this way. Then we are planning to provisioning the AI system activity as a beta status in 2026 for the cloud customers, that all cloud customers can then start building their first workflows and experience how agents can help them making their processes even a step greater and better. And the deployment of the AI chat that Robbie also have shown to you is planned then for the 26.2 release, when we think it will be so stable and so good that all the users will be excited to use it. And last but not least, if we talk about the Intelligence Studio, which I have just shown you, this is something where we will now start with our first POC customers directly from JobRouter. We will release it for the training program for our partners, and then roll it out also to our customers. So I think this is the most important information that we wanted to give to you here at the beginning of 2026, that you know what's coming up with JobRouter. How can JobRouter help you transform your processes with AI and digital workflows? We hope you enjoyed the show. We hope you have maybe even some questions now. We're gonna look now in the questions and answer round in the FAQs and see if something came up. And I see directly there are some questions. I have two questions here. How far do you plan the testing assistance to go? Can we expect a full-blown end-to-end test assistance for forms? This is a good question, actually, about testing. Maybe, Romy, would you like to say something? Because we have some testing things that we then probably also can use for these kind of workflows that we are building. Or?
Sure. Yeah, I actually answered that question. The second one is my answer. So, yeah, that's the idea for our testing assistance. Actually, is that you will, on the one hand, you will be able to specify a test scenario, and the AI bot will actually create an end-to-end test for you. So end-to-end tests are, let's say, mostly like user interface tests. So where like the test automation itself clicks through the form, enters some data, clicks a button, enters another data, clicks a button, and so on. So that's basically end-to-end test. It's kind of like a browser test, where the test bot kind of acts like a human and clicks through the workflow. And you can write end-to-end tests for those. We are already doing that for JobRouter itself for a couple of years, and we currently have a beta phase also, or we did have a beta phase also for selected partners to show them what our end-to-end test API looks like, so they can write their tests, the tests on their own. And in the future, the AI assistant will be able to take over that work as well and just write end-to-end tests based on our API, depending on a scenario you specify. And we can also imagine, of course, with the help of LLMs and AI agents, that they would be able to even specify the test scenarios so that you don't even have to do that anymore. So that would be the best version, I think, all in all. But that's the plan for our testing assistance. Mostly is that you specify the scenario at the beginning, and the AI agent will write down the end-to-end test for you.
Okay, thank you, Rami. I think that was then there's another question here. So following up on that, can those test routines be stored and run anytime as a simulation enhancement?
Yeah. That's basically it, that you don't just write it once and execute it once. You can actually store it with your workflow, all the test cases, all scenarios, and then you can run them automatically every day, every night, every time before an update, every time you change something in your workflow. That's the idea behind the end-to-end tests.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rami. Last point was wonderful. Thanks. Okay, so this is not a question. So this is just a statement, which is good. So, okay. So as there are no other questions here in our chat, I think we are at the end of our webinar today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, just reach out to your solution partner or reach out to us. We will help you and talk about AI use cases together with you. Thank you for joining it today, and have a nice Friday. Have a nice evening, and see you soon in other webinars or at other events from JobRouter. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.